go. Hi, Kelly. Here's Terry and Carol. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me. We're going to be finishing up today with these two cards. And if I have enough time, I actually found 2 more cards that were really, really cute. So, I may be doing those as well. So these 2, we're going to do a little bit of a different play on these. So we're going to use Sahara Sand. You know what? I need to grab my other paper because this would be, look, if you wanted to do this one too, just as a, because I grabbed this first. If you still have any of this autumn, what was this called? Autumn Harvest, maybe? Gilded Autumn. This would be really pretty too. So if you have this, you could use that. But I wanted to grab the Forever Greenery. I think I'm going to use a piece of this. And I actually have a couple of really good ideas. I was looking around and Gail Ellis, so if you're not familiar with her, she is out of the UK. And I apologize, I cannot remember what the name of her page is. Let me see if I have it saved here, because I might. She had some beautiful, beautiful cards. Let me take a peek here. I think I have a Blue Rose. I knew it was blue something. Blue Rose Paper Treasures. She had a really beautiful card with birds and branches, and she actually paired it with Forever Fern, which was really, really pretty. So if we have time, I'll see if I can whip this one out. There's also another really cool one I saw using the Old World folder, and actually it's a new home card. And I'm going to, if I don't get time to do both of those, I will make maybe a separate video and just post it. But they actually did it on here with the congratulations. It was really, really pretty. So in case you missed it, we did these 2 cards on Thursday. Hopefully there's not a glare. This one is a 4x4 card. So remember, when you're sending 4x4 cards, you don't want to send them in a little envelope because it's going to cost you more postage. So it's going to be a little bit big, but you want to put it in a full-size envelope. That way you can just put your regular stamp. Now, granted, this one's a little bit thick. So, because we use the foam adhesive sheet underneath, but just as an FYI, I would put this in a regular envelope, even though it's big, because if you put it in a small envelope, it has to be extra postage. And this one was Pretty Peacock and Just Jade. If you don't like that color combination, you could certainly do what they had here. It looks like they did Night of Navy and Misty Moonlight, which were equally pretty, but I thought this was just something different. So the 2 cards we have today, move these over. We're going to do variations of these 2 cards. So for this one, I have Crumb Cake. And then for this one, I actually have Rococo Rose. I know you guys probably think I'm nuts, but I want to grab a piece. And I want to kind of pick something that's not like too crazy for this little piece down here, which I kind of think any of these would be really pretty. Let's see. This one's nice. I don't know that they necessarily used this paper, but anything that's not too busy. I think I'm just going to use this because I know I have a little piece of this here. So I'm going to use a piece of this. So it's got these on the other side and the leaves. I actually did this one once before for a club class not too long ago. And what we did is we cut these into squares. And then we used like 2 of this side and 2 of this side and made it. So that was a really pretty card as well. And then for this one, I'm actually going to use, this is from In Good Taste. So that's why I chose Rococo Rose, because I thought it would go with it well. The other side of this is a hard choice though, because I love this. So I just picked something that would kind of complement the Rococo Rose. So we're going to use this. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a piece of this and we'll get all of our bases ready. So I'm thinking this is probably 3 3/4 by 5, but I'm going to go ahead and just trim this down to 4. That way I have an even piece. So the In Good Taste paper is really, really pretty. I think it is a very versatile. So I'm just trimming this down to 3 3/4 by 5. So with this little extra piece, we could probably even put that on the inside or something. So this will be our one piece. But it's a very versatile paper because it has a lot of wood textures in it. It has a lot of really soft textures in it. And as a matter of fact, for my kit, for my club kit for this month, is using some of the In Good Taste DSP. So I think that is, let's see, nope, that's not a full sheet. I have to slice one of these in half, and then I'm just going to try to do my paper cutting, and then I can use this one for that. That way we can just concentrate on our stamping. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one. So we're going to score this at 4 1/4 and 5 1/2. If you'd like to shop to get any of these products, I would really appreciate if you hit my online store. I am just below my monthly sales goal, but I have had a really good month this month, so I want to say thank you to all of my club members. All right, so there's that, and then we're going to do a little piece here. This one's going to need to be a little bit smaller. So actually, let me get my trimmer out once more. So that is 3 3/4 by 5. So we'll make this 3 1/2, because it doesn't need to be huge, by 4 3/4. So that looks pretty good. So this is going to be our base for this guy. And then this one, we're pretty much just stamping on here and adding this. We're going to need to add a little bit of something with, so we'll use this little scrap for our sentiment, but I'm going to trim this down a little. I think I'm going to trim this down to, I think I'm going to do 1 1/2, because I feel like 2 inches is going to be a little bit too big. So this is 1 1/2. Oh, it's a little bit shy. Yeah, that's okay. So this is 1 1/2, and this ends up, I normally would do this by 4 1/4, but I think it's 4. Yeah, 4. You know what we can do then? Let's just do this, because I do want it to go across. I'm just going to trim this up. So instead of this being a 4 1/4 card, I'm just going to make it a 4. That way, this will fit all the way across, because I think it'll look nicer. So this is going to be, for this, we just need a little something for our addition to the sentiment. Okay. So, remove these papers. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. So we have birds and branches, and we're going to do these 2 cards. If for some reason we have extra time, we'll work on the other 2. Otherwise, I might make a little separate video. I still haven't finished this one yet. All right, so let me just check and make sure there's no crazy comments. Hi, Diana. Hi, Shar. We're supposed to get a major snowstorm. Hopefully, have my fingers crossed. Hopefully, tomorrow actually into Monday. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm going to go ahead and mount up. Now you are going to need some scrap pieces of Whisper White, or white. I keep calling it Whisper White. White, basic white, whatever you want to call it, white. And I really want my my nest to be nice and dark. So I'm not going to go with early espresso, but I'm really going to ink my soft suede. And another really good tip, if you are trying to get a lot of good ink coverage, is actually to ink it with Versamark first. So I'm going to do that. So we have that for our nest. And then for our bird, for one of our birds, I'm going to go a little bit darker this time. So we have our bird. I think I'm going to need a little bit more paper. And I think I'm going to do basic gray. I'm not sure I want to do black. I think black would be a little bit too dark. So we'll do black. And then we need our branch. We can actually do multiple branches. Kind of just depends on what you want. For my branch, I'm definitely going to do espresso. So I have espresso for my branch. I think I'm going to stick with the Granny Apple Green for the leaves, because I really like the Granny Apple Green leaves. You can make them light and dark. And the leaves are this whole little grouping. Let's see if this fits on a smaller block. Okay, so we have my leaves. And if you wanted to, you can add flowers. They also did eggs, so I'm going to show you the eggs. They're actually pretty simple. And the eggs I'm going to do in Coastal Cabana. All right, so this is going to be for the first card. Now, couple things. We can do the same thing again with our paper. where, so again, we're working on this card first. So I'm going to move this over to the side, where we add the adhesive back, which will make it easier to cut out. So it just kind of depends. If you wanted to do that with your eggs, you could do it with that. You could do it with your bird. You really could do it with anything. So let me grab, I'm actually going to move on to a bigger piece. And I'm going to show you, kind of make it easy. So this is just a smaller piece. I'm just going to peel off. This is just a little remnant scrap, because remember, it doesn't need to be on the whole thing. As long as you have, when you stamp this and you die cut it, at least part of it is, it'll stick well. So you can also use this if you need to, like if you're holding, say if you're doing some ink blending and you wanted to save your paper, you could use this to keep your fingers clean. So I've seen Jennifer McGuire and Christina Werner do that. I always seem to have dirty fingers, so clearly I don't remember to do it. So the adhesive sheet does come in these long strips, so I'll just show you this while we're at it. It's 6 by 12. So it is, I will say, a little backwards of what we've probably been used to if you've ever used any other brand. And even the Sizzix paper was opposite, because what you would do is you would peel off the release paper, and then the adhesive would be on the back. Well, this one, the adhesive is actually on this part. So what I normally do is this. I'll show you. I'll just peel this back a little bit. Kind of go like that. Looks about good. And then I will just press it on like so. So this should cover a good amount of stamping and die cutting. I'm not going to do this little strip here. So just make sure it's pressed, and then I'll just grab my snips and just trim this off. So then you have adhesive on the back, and it'll make it easy for whatever you stamp. Okay, so I'm going to keep this on the side just in case I need it. And I am going to grab my paper piercer, whatever you call it, Stampin' Pierce mat. Okay, so this will just give you a little extra cushion. So I'm going to attempt to do some of these well. So I'm going to do the eggs first. Let's see, where's the most of my stuff is up top. So I'm going to do the eggs in Coastal Cabana. And remember, if you're looking at these, sometimes they're not going to be fully inked. So you can see when you look at the stamps here, there's a little bit of a lightness in the center. So if you're ever not sure if maybe you inked it all the way, you could always pre-stamp it and you can see it's supposed to look like that. Okay, so we'll do our eggs. They have a die, so they'll be easy to cut out. Okay, then we'll do the bird. And thank you everybody for the shares. I do appreciate that. Thank you so much. So we have our bird. I want to see if he's dark enough. Yeah, he looks pretty good. We could go with black, but I think it would almost be a little too dark. So we'll do the bird. Looks good. All right, then I also want to do the nest. So what I'm going to do, and I was telling you about this earlier, is I'm actually going to ink it in Versamark first, then in the color, because it will help it to have a more solid ink. If you notice that you still have troubles with it being fully inked or as inked as you want, you might want to clean your stamp first. Sometimes if it's dirty, it doesn't pick up ink as well. So I'm just going to ink this up with the Versamark. And this will not hurt your stamps. I've done this many, many times, or your ink pads, I should say. And then I'm going to just ink this up. Just make sure you move it around so you don't get any lines. Okay, and this one is just important also to make sure once you stamp it that you give it a minute to set for the ink to come from the stamp to the paper. And I think that was it. Yeah, they have a bow on that one, so there you go. So it's pretty nicely inked. Now, one other thing you can do, just thinking of this, because your ink is still wet, is you could even take your blender pen and you could go in and kind of blend a little bit of this color to fill in so it doesn't look so white underneath. It will make you lose a little bit of the detail on parts of it, but I kind of think for the bottom of it, it's supposed to be a little denser. You could always leave the top and the edges so it's not like that. So we'll go just like that. All right, so there is our 3 pieces. I do want to finish the bird. Their bird has a little bit more of an, like an orangey. So I'm going to go with, I think I'm going to do light pumpkin pie. Oh my gosh, lost my words. And then light, is this Poppy Parade? So I'm going to see what this looks like. So we have our regular ink and Stampin' Blends. I don't know that I've done this before. I think it should be fine, but we're going to just check. So I'm going to do my lighter color first. Should be fine because it's alcohol and other ink. I'm going to leave just a little light spot. Light Poppy Parade. Okay, and go back in now with the light pumpkin pie. Okay, and then one other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with my light smoky slate, and I just want just a little bit of added color to this. Not a whole lot. I'm not trying to make it completely dark. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to take my basic black marker, Stampin' Right marker. I just want to make the eye just a little bit darker. There we go. Okay, so that's probably going to be it. We still do need to do our sentiment, but their sentiment they did a little bit darker. So this is going to need to be die cut. But before we move on, I'm going to go ahead and do this part. So let's do our branches. So branches are Early Espresso. And you know what? My Early Espresso is really dry usually. Let me just give this a peek and see. Yeah. So in case you've never re-inked one of these foam re-inkers, I'm going to show you just a couple quick things. So you're going to take your re-inker. This is Early Espresso. Now, one thing is, if it's really dry, most of the color will absorb into it really quickly. And you shouldn't have to do this. And I'm just going to wipe that last one off. But if it doesn't absorb, or say sometimes it just doesn't go in all the way, what I'm going to do is take my handy dandy plastic spoon that I reuse for almost every single color, and I'm going to just press the ink into the stamp pad. And it's kind of funny, I must have been dreaming that I was making cards the other day. And I just had this flashback that I must have moved the ink over on one of my ink pads, because if you get an ink pad that's really, really wet, what you can do is you can kind of press the ink to one side so you have a drier side, and then you can always move it back. But this works really well, so it's going to press it in. Now you will still have some residual on your spoon tool, and what I do is I just take my cloth and wipe it off, and then... Now, granted, I wouldn't go to do white with this, but I pretty much use this for every single color. So then, we're going to try this again. We're going to ink this back up and see if it looks any better. Now, I'm not going to press nearly as hard as I did that very first time, because it should be really wet now. Let's see. Oh, looks way better, doesn't it? So, let's take our white. I'm going to flip this over. And we're going to just add some branches, so you can kind of add wherever you want, because you are going to have this nest covering a big portion of it up. So you can put one up there, and maybe one kind of connected in case anybody's going to inspect your cards. I highly doubt that's going to happen. And then I'm going to wipe this off. I just want to add one more little branch, but I'm going to just ink just like the end third of it. So I'm going to ink it like this. That way I only have part of it. Okay, and then I'm going to turn this around. Hopefully this is going to be clean and it's not going to make a smudge. Please don't do that to me now. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So we have a 3-brancher. All right, so there's that. And then I'm just going to add in my leaves. Now, when I do this, I'll do these in different generations of ink. So some of them will be really dark. And then without re-inking, I'll do this one. You can kind of add some other leaves in other areas to be filler, because remember, this is going to be, your nest is going to be covering, so you may not see it. So you can always add more leaves, because if you don't like it, you could add something else to kind of cover it up. Nobody's going to really know. You can even go just a little bit to the side, so you have like 2 layers of leaves. You could do that here too. Kind of gives you more depth for your images. I'll do one a little bit darker over here. And even a third. So you kind of have a good fill-in spot. So remember, you don't have to just do it once. So these are just, you can even have stamped this first and then just slightly turned it before you re-inked. So you have lots of different options with your coloring. So there's that. And now I think we're pretty good. We're just going to do our die cutting. So I'm going to attempt to do all of this, if I can, on one platform. So again, I could get out my mini, but I kind of had this one ready to go. So I'm going to just use this. I'll put this away. And we need our nest. And what I'm going to do is just grab a couple little pieces of purple tape. So I'm going to kind of just line this up the best I can. It does not need to be perfect. Nobody's going to notice. You could even sponge the edge of this a little bit if you're not super happy with how it looks. Nope, that's wrong. I was right the first time. We have our bird. And this is, again, very well-loved purple tape. I just use it pretty much until it either really doesn't stick anymore, or if for some reason it accidentally sticks to the paper and tears, then I'll get rid of it. But I use it over and over. You could always, even if you wanted to add a little something extra, you could add these, the die cut branch to it will give you a little bit more depth. There's lots of things that go with the stamp set. You could have an extra bird. I did see a really, really cute card as well. You know how we did this one on this card? So this is the part that made this, in case you missed it the other day. I saw a card that actually had this as a die cut, and then they had this part running on the side. So it would have looked like this and like this. It was really, really pretty. So again, it doesn't need to have all the depth to it. It just depends on what you want to add to it. So you can make it simple. That way you can make a bunch of them. You can make it more elaborate if you have somebody special that you're sending it to. The other thing we did the other day, if you wanted to pop this up, so say if you wanted to give this some dimension, and we will go ahead and I'll show you just what I mean. What you can do is, I'm going to take this out, keep this here, and I showed somebody this the other day. So this is just regular fun foam. This is something I got on Amazon. So it's just one-sided adhesive, so it was a little bit cheaper. So we can do this. I'll show you this one too, in case you've never done it. So instead of using the adhesive sheet, this is fun foam. So I'll go ahead and pop this through. Same sandwich for the die cut, because it is pretty thin and flexible. So what I did was I used my underneath piece with the sticky is going to stick to the card. So I actually am going to need to use adhesive to stick my nest to it. But what I wanted to do first, let me do this first because I'm getting ahead of myself. That way it'll be easier. So when you see, if you die cut your eggs, you'll get 3 separate eggs. So we'll just pop those out. Our 3 eggs, and we have our bird. I'm going to do 2 different things. Let me grab a sponge. So I'm just going to use a very, very little bit of espresso. So you'll see what we're going to do. So I just have a sponge and just do the edges. Okay, so there's that. And then I want to put a little teeny bit, and I mean teeny because I don't want it to goop. Teeny bit of adhesive, kind of just spreading around that one little line. And I'm going to put the eggs, oops. Here, I think I missed a spot. like so. That's a little too low. I always put them lower than I think they are. I think I have them too high and they're actually too low. So there's that. Okay. Then this side does not have adhesive, so I'm going to put some liquid glue. Kind of want to make sure you get it to the whole thing. So I'm going to attempt to do this and not make a mess. I'm just going to take my finger and kind of spread it. You can use the wide tip, as somebody pointed out for me before. I never seem to use that side. Then you're going to put this on top. Make sure it lines up well. All right, so then you have a lifted layer. The whole layer is lifted. That's why I like cutting foam with the die cuts, because it gives you a lot of depth, really without a lot of work. So you can put our bird here. So I'm going to just put some, I probably could use my finger, but I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the bottom of the bird. Kind of set her in there like that. All right, so there's that part. We did all of our die cutting. So we're going to put this together, and probably put her, I probably should have done this from this way, so maybe we'll have to put her here because I kind of did it a little bit backwardsy. And the way this is, honestly, I probably should have cut this one a little bit bigger. So since we still have that, now in hindsight, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab this one more time because it's just a little too small now that I look at it. So if you are doing this along and you've made it to the replay, I'm sorry. So we're going to do this at 4 by 5 1/4. Let's see. I think this was 4, right? Yeah. Let me take a look and see if this looks better. Okay. So, because you kind of want it a little bit, it almost might need to be like 1/8. Yeah. Let's see. No. Maybe it's not as bad as I think. Let's take a look. What do you guys think? Do you think it's enough paper? We could always trim this down an extra 1/8. So I'm going to wait and see. Let's see if anybody has any 2 cents they want to chip in. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment. Now, this one does not have any sentiments. We did discuss that the other day. So let's see. What do we have? Well Said has a lot of really amazing sentiments in it. You know what? Did I forget the other part? Hold on 1 second. Yes, I did, because this is a 2-parter. So we could do congratulations. Let's do that. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to move these over for a moment. I'm going to grab a piece of basic gray. Hopefully I have a little slim scrap. Yep, there's a piece right there. Now you could stamp this in black. We could stamp it in white and do some white embossing, which I think that might be cute. Let's try that. We haven't done that in a while. All right, so I'm going to just hit this with my embossing buddy just because it is super ridiculously dry here. And I'm going to just go to my white pad. I'm going to need to plug in my heat tool because I wasn't planning on this. And you can always do clear if you don't have the color. So remember that you can always do clear, or you could do white. Let me see if I can grab my silver. Silver would be pretty too. White. I'm going to do white. If you do it with white and white ink, you'll probably get a little bit more of a vivid output of color because I have looked at that before. All right, so I'm going to, in the meantime, I'm going to crank on my heat tool so you're going to hear that in the background. That way it's nice and hot. What that'll do is it cuts down on the warping of the paper, okay? So, let's see if we can do this without goofing it up. And I will check in just a minute to see what you guys decided. Did you think that the bigger piece or the smaller piece? Or my comments. I like the angle too. Okay, Karen says she likes the larger. I feel like you can see it a little bit more if you have the larger. So I'm going to open up my white powder. You can kind of tell when your heat tool gets to a nice hotness because the sound changes. So keep that in mind too. the things you learn as you go through stamping. I do want to make sure that this is nicely inked. Okay, so remember, we did use our embossing buddies, so I'm going to do my best to line this up. Oh, that looks pretty good. I'm just going to sprinkle the powder on top. Just tap it off. Set that here for a moment. I'm going to put this away. Let me put this away first. The Stampin' pad, I have had that ink pad as long as I have been a stamper, not a demonstrator. So they don't come inked anymore. They actually come dry and you ink them, but mine is so old that it came inked. All right, you definitely don't want to leave this. You want to clean this off with your Stampin' Mist. So clean this specifically because it is a pigment ink, so it will stay sticky longer, kind of like the Versamark, and then everything will stick to it. So since this is really hot, we're just going to heat this. It should only take a second. And when it's done and it's actually set, it changes from powdery to shiny, which I know is probably not so easy to see on a gray piece of paper, but it is. I do think it's a teeny bit crooked, but I'll let myself slide for that one. Let me grab my snips. And I'm just going to trim this right to the piece on both sides. That looks pretty good. All right, and then this is going to go on top. And I think that's kind of it for this card. You could add a little bit of ribbon. They added like a back ribbon to it. So if you wanted to, I don't think we have any Granny Apple Green. No, we do. Maybe this one's it. I was going to say it'd be nice to kind of tie this in. I think this one went with... Oh, I can't think what that combo is, but the Daisy, the Dandy Garden. I think this is that. So we could always add this if we wanted to. So let's take one and see. This comes in both of those together. So let's do a ribbon. Crazy point for you. If you tie your ribbon backwards, so instead of bringing it forwards, if you bring it backwards, you'll get this perfect knot every time. It does take practice. It takes even more practice if you're doing it on camera. So we'll put this. And that way we have it. We'll see if we like it. I'm going to make these a little smaller. Okay, so there is that. So again, these come together. I'm pretty sure it's Dandy Garden. It's hard sometimes with trying to remember all the things that are going on. So we did decide on the larger piece. We have our layer, we have our bird, we have our sentiment, and our ribbon. So we're going to put this one together. So I'm going to go ahead and fold this. And I did say I saved that little strip for the inside. So we could always add that inside if we wanted to. Okay, so I'm going to use liquid glue for all of this. That way we have adjustability. So I'm just going to put... Just kind of make sure you at least get to the edge. I don't want it to go too far off, so it's kind of only going to be slightly skewed. I'm going to make sure that I keep my skew inside of the size of the card. That way I don't have any trouble with getting it in the envelope. Same with this one. I'm going to put some glue on the back. Okay, this part will be straight. Looks pretty good. All right, so remember with this, we had that adhesive layer because this was that fun foam that I got from Amazon. So if you want to, I'm going to just put one dimensional on the back of this bird's head. So it kind of keeps the whole thing elevated. So I have one dimensional and then the rest is just fun foam. So kind of decide where this looks best. I'm going to just sit this down really lightly in case I feel like I want to move it. Looks pretty good, huh? So this will be, I think it's a little bit lopsided. Let's see if I can straighten that out a little. Okay, so this, they had like this, kind of like that. I don't know if I necessarily like the ribbon. What do you guys think? Personally, I think just with the congratulations, but I know some people like ribbon. So let's see, ribbon or no ribbon. And you can even bring this down here if you don't want to take away from the whole nesty scene. So let me know, what do you think? I'll wait a second. Check out some comments. No ribbon. Somebody else says perfect. Judy, I'm kind of with you. I don't really like the ribbon either, so I'm going to go with that. But I like the sentiment down here as opposed to this. What do you guys think? That, no ribbon, perfect, sounds good. I like it this way. That way I don't like to block the scene. Does that make sense? So if you guys think this looks good, we'll put this down here. I'm going to put some glue on it anyway, but I will keep watching. No ribbon. See, I know we should all be crafting together somewhere, aside from here, somewhere in person. The bow does cover too much of the nest. I agree with you. So I'm going to go with down here because I like this. And if you don't like it down here, you can certainly pop yours up there. But that's another card. Wasn't too complicated. We did lots of steps to explain, lots of tips and tricks. So it really doesn't take that long to make this card. So we have that. So now we're going to move on to our other card. So here is one. What did I do with my pieces? Here they are. Oh, and you know what I wanted to do? I forgot. I was going to put this. Hold on. I was going to put this in there. And I kind of think I almost like this a little bit better than this. But I guess it depends on what kind of card you're doing for, huh? We could even put this on the side like that. Trim it up. And add our sentiment. Let me see what went with this. This was from Well Said. May the rest of your lives be the best of your lives. I think that's fun. I know there's probably got to be a baby thing about here in here. No, let's just go with that. May the rest be the best. Here we go. And just to keep it kind of soft, I'm going to just go with Rococo Rose. Good morning, Donna from Louisiana. Thank you for joining. And I'm going to put this kind of in the center-ish. You could probably use this for anything. For marriage, for a new baby. Nope, that's not in the right spot, but that's okay. I guess since I kind of went with that, I don't know. I feel like I like the dark, but I like the contrast. And even just for a little something. You can even, if you wanted to, add that little bow in here. I don't know why you'd put a bow on the inside, but you might, right? Let me just put this on here, and then I'll trim that up. All right. Just for a little, this gives you still plenty of room. As a matter of fact, my neighbor is due to have a baby. It could be any time now, so maybe she'll be getting this card. I know she's not watching Facebook Lives right now because she's probably over there cleaning something, but there's that. And if you wanted to, you could flip to the other side. So that card's finished. Remember, I did say that was my resolution, was to finish my cards. So this one is going to be pretty simple as well. We already have our card folded. So I'm just going to reinforce this. All right, let me move this white out of the way. So we have our newly inked Early Espresso. So I'm going to bring this up. And there are 2 branches in here, just in case you didn't notice. So you don't necessarily have to not ink part of this. We could do this. So we'll do both of them for this one. So we're going to do our tree. And let me grab the other one before I forget. And we'll fill this in. Probably should have done a little bit more, so I'm actually going to do it opposite. I'm going to bring this to connect this part. Look at that. See, works both ways. That just filled that in a little bit. I'm going to do one more little one out from the side. Looks good. All right, so let's leave it at that. So we have both of our branches, have my leaves. I'm going to go with, I think I might do Granny Apple for this one. I'm sorry, Garden Green. Oh, this is the broken one. I got to remember, we got to do something about this. This is going to be a problem. There's nothing wrong with this pad, but So this one I'm just going to stamp twice. This one probably could use to be re-inked as well. So let's just do that real quick. Because it's not quite as dark as I thought it was going to be. Oh, no. Might have to add a bow to that after all. Oh, look what I just did, guys. What? Hold on, let's see. Oh, that's green for sure. Wah, wah. I cannot believe I just did that. Isn't that a stinker? Let me move this before it happens again. Just note to self. Don't do what I do. I think I might bring in a little bit darker. Let me close this very carefully. I'm going to bring in some shaded spruce just to have a little bit darker of leaves. Yeah, that was a doozy. Goofball. Oh, I like these two together. The shaded spruce and the garden green are very complementary. I think that's good. I don't want to overdo it. Okay, so we have those two things. Then we have, this is really pretty simple. So we have this. So we'll make this into a thank you card. I'm just waiting to see. Take your green mark. I was going to say that. I was going to say that exact thing, Sherry. I was going to say this one might be a card that gets some flickers to it. So you're right. That's exactly what's going to happen. So I'm going to do thanks. Let me see. Hold on, because one of these other ones had a nice thank you. Now we have hello, friend. Oh, thank you so much. Come on, Blondie, open your eyes. Let's see if this is going to fit. That is not going to fit on there. Okay, so we're going to stick with thanks. I kind of wish this one had thanks and thank you. It would make me happier, but I guess we can't always have what we want, right? The Rolling Stones told us that. All right, so I'm going to go with, don't worry, we're going to fix that card. I'm going to go with, I think I'm going to do Early Espresso for my thanks. Let me put this away. Bad garden green. Okay. So this is kind of really in the center. So it's a full sentiment. Theirs actually has a lot more wording to it. So we're going to make ours slim though. And they did also cut out a little bit of fanciness. So let's take a peek what we want to do with this. This is where you could bring in the little leaves. So maybe I'm going to cut 2 of those out. We're going to do this piece. We have the thank you. We can always do a little something. So let us grab, what color do we want to use for this? I think it needs a little bit of brightening. So I think I want to use Granny Apple Green. And then I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive on the back of that. And you could even do it in multiples if you wanted to. So again, we have our layer. This piece, these all go together. So I'm going to set this on the side. So we just have a little piece. And we're going to cut out the branch. So it should fit really nicely on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just peel. I'm going to go with this piece just because it's a little bit easier. I'm going to peel this back. Okay, and I'm going to slide. Turn this over because I know it has a ledge there. Slide this in just like so. And there goes the adhesive sheet. It does make things really, really much easier. And then I'm going to just cut right here. I'm kind of just going to go up the paper, even though it's a little crooked. So here's this. We're going to die cut this, and we have to add something else to this for that kind of backgroundy thing. So since these are handy, I'm going to use my stitched nested. So let's see. Let's just take a little glance at what we have. So we have our leaves. I want to make these going up. we're going to have this little flourish. We'll kind of bring like half and half this way. And then if we do this here, and then we'll have our thanks. So we need to cut this with something different. So what if instead of using paper, what if we do the brushed foil? So we still have plenty of that. And to make it stand out a little bit more, let's see if I have a piece. We'll use a piece of copper just to make it a little bit different. So we're going to cut this with copper. Might have to turn that a little bit, just like that. We're going to cut this here, put our sentiment, and then we'll be all good to go. So let me move just a couple things, and I'll put these here, and we should be good to go. If you wanted to, you could always probably actually run this fully and then do a partial one if you wanted to add a lot to it. And try to bring this in as much as I can. Be careful with the foil because this can kind of leave a little bit of a tape mark. I'm really just trying to be fast about it, so I'm not worried. But when you're doing it, it's worthwhile to not tape if you can help it. And since I have adhesive sheet on the back of that branch, I did it back and forth. That way I could make sure that it cut through and it would come apart a little bit easier. And then here is this. Actually, it didn't stick too bad. It's probably because this tape is so used. It doesn't have very much adhesive. So there's that. We still have this. Remember, this does cut the stitching from both sides. So if you had a piece where you wanted to use this and this, you could do two different projects from it. Okie doke. So now we're just going to put this together. Let me pop this back in here. All right, and we have this guy here. And what I'm probably going to do is snip this so part of it goes up and part of it goes down. So let me just grab my little pokey tool here. And you can see it comes out really easily. Only had this one little middle piece. And I'm telling you, honestly, I think it's due to the adhesive. It just makes it come out easier. That sounds totally kooky, but it really, I feel like it's true. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put this down. Down at the bottom. I think in this little section here, I got a little leaf happy. I probably should have taken it down a notch, but there's that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my snips and I'm going to cut here and here. So I'm going to have one piece that goes up, one piece that comes down like that. I might have to trim this off. Up, down. You could use this little piece if you wanted to, but that one's going to be, then we're going to have this. So we're going to see, we're going to need to adjust this, which is why I like to do it beforehand. And then this piece is just going to go straight across. Okay. I am going to put dimensionals on the back of this and we're almost finished. So let's see, what time is it? 10:24. Well, except for my flub, I don't think I'm going to have enough time or battery to do the other two videos. So I'm going to do those two as pre-recorded. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm just kind of giving myself an eyeball. So this one, maybe I might move this one over here because of the way the, let's see. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm actually going to put this one up top. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the back. This is probably, because it's a little piece, potentially the hardest part. There we go. And just be careful because if you pull too hard, you can rip the leaves. So I'm going to go up. I'm just kind of slightly setting. I'm not pressing because I want to make sure I like where it is. Same thing with this one. So I'm kind of pulling and holding at the same time so I don't rip anything. And let's see. This one will say goes down just a little. Let's take a peek. That actually looks pretty good. I think we're good with that. I'm going to move it just a teeny weeny bit. And this one, I'm going to move over just a teeny. And you can kind of move these if you want because they are pretty slim. We're going to put this on top. Oops, go down. That looks pretty centered. Okay, and all right, so we can either make this go all the way or we can flag the ends. I'm going to try trimming first. Let's trim and see what it looks like. So if we trim here to like here. So we can do it like that. Nah, not good enough. Let's do a flag. It may not actually be even now that I'm looking at it either. So if you really want to be precise about this, you can even use one of your punches to flag the ends. Yeah, this needs a little bit more of a flag to match. Or you can pick a different sentiment that you don't have to worry about it being so on point. One other thing, when you put glue on, when you put glue on foil, it does tend to be really slippery, so you really need to make sure you fit this where you want it. You can see it's going all over the place. But it's kind of nice because it gives you that adjustability. That sentiment is a little crooked. I'm not loving it, but that's going to be life. There you go. So I'm not going to touch this because if I do, it's going to move. It definitely moves for probably a good minute. So make sure you have it somewhere, you set it down. Again, as I was telling you earlier, there's still plenty left here. So if you even wanted to add another piece and put more coming out, you could. You could even, let's do this. I'm going to die cut this. We can add a piece of that to the inside. And then we'll add our sentiment. So we're just going to pull this out. Granted, it's just going to be a partial piece, which is fine. We have this piece here, so I'll get rid of the rest of that. But then we feel like we've used the rest of our adhesive sheet. So I'm just going to give this a poke to pull this. So it's going to be one, and two. So there's that. And make sure when you're done using that you clean out your dies. That way they cut better, because if they have stuff in them and you continue to cut that way, it just makes it harder for it to get all the way through. So very carefully, I'm going to assess prior to doing this. Plus we have to fix this little gem here. What do we want the inside to say? So thanks. I think I'm going to go with this. My life is better because you're in it. That's always a nice one. Where is it? There it is. And I'm going to go with, I was going to say being brave and open the garden green, but I think I'm going to do shaded spruce. So let's see, this should be fairly dry. So last part. Looks good. Put this down here near the bottom because you're probably going to want to write something up top. So there's that. Let me not drop this. We can put this one on first. So if you're like me and you have bought this set but you haven't used it, now is the perfect time to get it out and use it. And then I'm going to put this other little piece just popping off from there. It is a really fun set. I will tell you though, in the beginning, it was a challenge. And by the way, I do have a picture. So when I finish posting this video, I have a picture of the door that I decorated for Catholic Schools Week, which is the reason I even got this stamp set out in the first place. So I'm going to share that so you can see that's really nice in there with a little added bonus. But I'm going to share that on my page. This is finally set. And let me, I hope I'm not going to regret this. This is just going to remind you never, ever, 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 ever to re-ink your inks when you have a pretty white card sitting right next to it. So I guess I'm going to go with, I did that in garden green, so I might as well try to match it, right? Garden green. Was it garden green? I think I re-inked. Yep. So I'm going to take this. This is something you can do if you ever make a whoopsie and you don't really know what to do with your card. You take the cap of your marker and you flick it again. So I'm going to show you what I mean ahead of time. So you get little or bigger flicks. You can see there's little tiny flicks depending on what you do. So we're just going to flick this card and save that little glop. I'm going to do one this way so it almost looks natural. I think I would have liked it better plain, but you know, sometimes you got to do what you got to do to save the card so it doesn't look like you ruined it in the 11th hour, right? Hi, Donna. Thank you for joining. Joining late, no worries. You can always catch the replay. So this is our card. I should have taken a picture before, but oh well, what are you going to do? So we added a little bit of splash to this to save it. And then this was the other card that we created. There is a lot of debris here. Let me move a couple of these things out of the way so I can put that other one up. We did end up going with the larger piece of DSP if you missed that in the beginning. And then these are the two cards we made on Thursday. This one is in its wrapper because I've been trying to do that as well. I did finish all of them, I think, except for this one on the inside. So really nice cards. Again, this stamp set, Birds and Branches, doesn't have any sentiment. So it's nice because you can use it for absolutely anything. You could use it for a new baby. You could use it for new home. Thinking of you. Get well. Sympathy. Kids moving to college. Or kids moving out of the house. Or you know, you could even do something funny with an empty nest and two birds sitting there staring at each other. Or it would be even funnier if you had the birds facing different directions. But I have that kind of sense of humor, so that's just me. But I think they're really pretty. I do still have two other cards that I'd like to share with you guys. So what I think I'll do is I'll probably just do a quick video with those, and then I will post it onto my YouTube page. So make sure you follow me there if you don't already. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. If I get enough snow, you never know, I might be able to go live one other day. I'm not going to make any promises because I keep saying that and then something ends up coming up where I don't end up doing it. But if we get enough snow on Monday actually will be a snow day from school. So I might be able to make some videos and then we can do some extra fun stuff. So I always like doing that, especially once I get on a roll with stuff, then it really makes me realize, I already know how much I miss doing this stuff, but it really makes me realize how much I miss crafting. So thank you guys so much for joining me as always. I really appreciate it. If you would like to buy any of the supplies, you can get everything seen here except for that one-sided fun foam in my online store, which is rachthestamper.stampinup.net. If you don't already have a demonstrator that you shop with, I would love for you to shop with me. When you do go to the online store, when you're going to check out, usually in the top right-hand corner, it will tell you who you're shopping with. So if you see Rachel Rife, then you know you are shopping with me. If not, you can shop with your regular demonstrator. We all have to shop with who we love. So I completely understand. I know I go to a lot of people's blogs for inspiration as well, and I shop with myself. But hey, if we're watching something, you can always give me a thumbs up. You can leave a comment if you're going to be watching this on the replay. So if you do head over to YouTube or you're watching this on the replay for YouTube, make sure you leave the comment January 2021 because I am doing a drawing to get rid of some of my extra prizes that I have left over. So make sure you leave a comment over there as well. That doesn't work on Facebook. So if you're here on Facebook, it doesn't count. You have to go to YouTube to do it. So if you're watching this on YouTube as a replay or you're watching this live on Facebook and then you head over to YouTube, you can always give me a thumbs up for that video as well. I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful weekend. I will post the picture that was the inspiration for me to get this started. I hope you guys think it's as cute as I do. And I will watch you. Geez, I will see you again real soon. Hopefully you'll be watching me here or on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and have a wonderful weekend.